and welcome to Between Us. Make every conversation count. And welcome to a very special edition of our micro podcast series. So today, I'm in conversation with Sachin Kapoor, the co-founder of Trumsy, and we want to talk about how storytelling, community, brand engagements work hand in hand with gamification. And how about adding generative AI to the mix? Sachin, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me, Santosh.
All right, Sachin. So let's begin. I want to start off with some perspectives, your personal perspective. So let me begin by asking, what was the first time that you actually felt inclined or excited about gamification? Wow. And the potential it had in terms of engagement for consumers and marketing.
See, gamification is something that is very personal, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I actually do not remember it started in my working career. In fact, my oldest memory of being excited about gamification was when 7up launched in India, and they introduced a character called Fido Dido. And Fido Dido had these cool straw glasses,
Yes.
right, which you can wear, because like I was somebody wearing glasses. I found it super cool to put on top of my specs, but I had to collect crowns, because underneath every crown I'll get a number, and if I add that number up to 100 or 500, I will get cool swag from them. Right?
Yes.
And all I wanted was get the Fido Dido glasses, because like I will use it to sip water, to sip cold coffee, to sip the mango shake in summers. Like that was the cool thing to do. So like that I felt was no matter how old I get, like I'll be honest, like after a couple of years I never drank 7up in my life. But I cannot forget, even after 40 years, the Fido Dido. And those glasses. That is gamification to me. Gamification is not about, how do you get people to play something. It is about how you create that lasting memory which always brings a smile on your face. See, in today's world, you have traveled in the tri-state area, right? You've traveled through 3 states, so as to say, 3 or 4 cities today. You might have already visually seen and experienced 1500 to 2000 brand and logos.
Absolutely.
And if asked you to recall, you would not be able to recall more than 10 to 15. That is a retention rate of less than 0.1%. 15 out of 1500. Right? So what is really going wrong over there, right? The going wrong over there is that there's too much clutter in our real life, in our digital life, and there's too little time to have deep experiences. What gamification does is it creates the right experience for you, so that your maximum number of sensory elements they trigger at the same point of time, and then the chemicals inside your body, right, the oxytocin, the dopamine, these kind of come together and they kind of create that happy memory which you want to relive over and over again. So that's gamification for me. Now, clearly as a consumer, that's my experience, that's my story, right? But when I started working for consumer brands, right, and I work for consumer brands both from a product perspective and also services and experience. I've worked for Airtel, I've worked for brands like Samsung, I've worked for Yahoo, I've worked for LinkedIn, right? The one thing that I always understand is it is always about the user. It is about what is the kind of science you methodically employ, right, to engage the user. What user? Not any user. The user you are specifically targeting, and then you measure if they are becoming net promoters of yours or not.
I'm glad you brought that up, because I have a question for you. You said the kind of brands you worked in, right? Can you elucidate for me what an engagement is all about? Because there seem to be all kinds of definitions of consumer engagement going on. You look at social media today, there is not enough engagement. People are not commenting or liking or doing this. What, according to you, having worked with multi-brands, is engagement?
See, we cannot look at engagement in isolation. Whenever somebody uses the word engagement, right, the first thing that comes to my mind always is engagement for what? To achieve what?
Yes.
Right? And who do we want to engage? Where I feel a lot of this clutter comes is like a lot of brands have a spray and pray approach. Whereas an engagement has to be objective led. Like for example, right, continuing with an aerated spirits brand, right, what we call the soda brands in the
Right.
US. What is their objective? Their objective is to make drinking soda cool, right?
Yes.
Because it is at the end of the day sugar water which is aerated, right? There's no calorific value in it.
Correct.
It's maybe not healthy, right? But if it is cool and it gives you a self-image, right? So what is their engagement about? There's engagement about those children, right? Those youth who are looking for a self-image, who can relate it with it being cool, and therefore they can also relate to similar people. That is what engagement is defined for them. Now for a brand who is into say tech, or who's providing services, say social media for example, right? For a social media brand, engagement is directly linked to their mission and vision.
Okay.
Right? If your objective is to connect all pet owners in the world, if your mission is, and make sure that they have a healthy and fulfilling life, say, right? You're a brand and you have a social network around pet owners or pet parents, right? Your engagement would be, okay, who are you engaging? Are you engaging pet parents or the support ecosystem of pet parents, right? But that's not enough. That may be your ideal user profile. On top of that, that pet owner, is that pet owner engaging to help the community they are joining and therefore add value. And if those are the people who are engaging, it makes sense because engagement from a social network perspective can be either you are a net contributor or you are a net drawer or receiver. Honestly, engagement is driven 90% of the time by the people who are contributing because they want to give.
So, you briefly touched upon it, but how do you see moving forward gamification influencing consumer behavior? That's part one of the question. The other part of the question is, how do I put this? From when you started to where we are today, how has this evolved?
Yeah. So, see, gamification has always influenced consumer behavior, right? And like from raffles to everything, there's always been gamification from the time we have recorded history. Okay. The only thing is gamification methods keep evolving.
Okay.
Or they keep reinventing to fit the current context and times. If I have to give you an example, in the COVID time when we were shelter in place, most places of the world, right? At that point of time, gamification had to go virtual.
Okay.
Right? Even if you want people to play housey or tambola or lotto, right? It was happening virtually. Right? Now, as things have opened up, like people do not find purely online experiences that great.
Correct.
So we are moving towards what is called a phygital experience zone, where the digital is the proof of record, but physical is where you are gathering the real world experience.
Okay.
So, and this is not wrong, right? Because if you also look at brands as they're expanding, they might initially launch online only or digital, but then they start setting up physical locations and physical presence, stores and stores.
True.
Like, take for case, you and I, we are both wearing eyewear. There's a very high probability we might have bought it from Lenskart, right? But there is an equally high probability we would have interacted with a person from Lenskart and not just online alone. Online may keep a proof of record, what is our last known, recommendation, or from a number perspective, our last known styles, the size that we wear, if we avail of an offer or not, etc., etc. So the reality is that the experience we have is moving phygital. It's what is being called omni-channel these days.
Okay.
And if that is becoming omni-channel, can gamification today be omni-channel? Right? You cannot have a part of the gamification digital, and then when you're experiencing the same brand physically, there is a totally different gamification experience. So in today's day and age, the first thing is, can you extend it omni-channel? That's number one. The second one is personalization. I'll give you a case in point, right? So we are working with clients who want to engage their employees, and we are working with clients who want to engage their after-sales support channel partners. I won't even call them channel partners, I'll call them influencers, because they are the people, for example, who do the service of vehicles. They want to influence that decision. Now, interesting thing is, one solution does not fit all.
Correct.
I'll give you a very, very high level example. Of course, personalization runs much deeper than that. For employees, if you convert points into cash, they may or may not be that interested, because as comparison to the monthly earnings, that would be nothing. But they are more interested in experiential rewards, because they might be able to share those rewards with their loved ones and family.
True.
Right? Try doing that for your channel partner influencer, right? Where you say, hey, listen, no cash rewards, you'll get experiential rewards. You might get a totally different pushback, because that auto mechanic who's going and buying that spare part wants to get that 10 rupee, 15 rupee, 50 rupee, 100 rupees scratch the card coupon so that he can pocket that money. Right?
True.
So it varies. Then it varies by age segment, right? If you talk about millennials and Gen Z, the first thing they talk about rewards is, I'm bored with the kind of rewards that are being offered from a gamification, user engagement, employee engagement perspective. Up to 72% of them say that, and that is one of the top 3 reasons of their being disengaged as employees, right? Whereas older employees, right? If you talk about older employees, they are very happy with consistent rewards, which they can forecast. So how do you take care of it? So for example, you can use your points to buy anything, works great for employees. You can use your points to get cashbacks, right? Or even you can get a credit voucher of the net sales you've done for a brand, works in the case of sales. So it's a matrix, and then you have to be literally smart about the metrics. And this is where AI comes in. I feel in gamification, the third layer of disruption is coming because of generative AI, right? We always had predictive AI, right? We always had algorithms in predictive AI, which can help us personalize. But if I know enough about you and have clean customer or partner data about you, I can use that data to personalize not only what you want to experience, but what is the kind of rewards you want. 2 things. What was missing was the lack of innovative options. Right? This is where generative AI agents come into the picture.
Okay.
Right? For example, if I'm your buddy, right, can I gamify you enough so that I can create options that you like, and can I create enough options so that I can fine tune which options are the ones that are working the best. So generation is one game. It requires a very different thing, right? And then application is another game, and which is where I feel that in gamification, we have left brain and right brain combination coming together.
Absolutely.
Like generative AI and predictive
Yes.
AI kind of coming together.
Correct.
To deliver the whole end-to-end experience.
The next question is very close to me, because as a podcast, we are all about stories, right? And I would like to understand how this could fit into gamification, because gamification to a large extent relies on stories, right? To engage users. How do you see storytelling fitting into the future of marketing with gamification?
I believe that marketing is always about the story, right? You can write it down in such a way that even if there are weak parts in the narration, like people flow along. But if you have just 20 minutes to tell a story, you will have to tighten it a lot more. But if you only have 30 seconds to tell the story, that is where you need to start taking calls. What is the message that will land the best, right? So duration matters. If you ask me an example, right, when people wanted to market an ideal way of life and people to move away from being nomads to domesticated farmers, our city dwelling people, right, the epics Ramayana and Mahabharata were used to a great effect as a marketing tool.
Sure.
Right?
Sure.
Means apart from their religious significance, which like I hold very high, like apart from that, they were great marketing tools as well because people could tell those stories, and not like. And what happened is,
Because people could connect to it. It's a way of life.
It's a way of life, like Maryada Purushottam, right?
Yes.
The ideal way of life for a man, right? But then what happened thereafter was, once everybody knew what was the long story, for pointed cases, right? For helping others, right? When you yourself have less, can you kind of help others? Like Shabri ke Beer, right? A story within a story, a very shorter version of the story was utilized. I will not use the word invented, it was utilized because it was always right in the narrative. You picked it up and used it that, hey, you know, if I have to teach children how you should share your food, maybe you can use it. And also, like when you are eating with each other and you know somebody has already taken a bite of it, like it, you can still consume it, right? Like that. What do these things kind of tell us? That listen, like a lot of story making, gamification, storytelling and marketing, they joined at the hip. You can't separate the two.
Yeah. When you mentioned the 30-second, it reminds me so much of in today's modern context, the Instagram reels. You know, when you create those reels, I go through this myself. My producer sits with me and he looks at me and he says, "Too much information, Santosh. There's an impact chahiye. 3 points." Because as a consumer, just looking at a reel, if it doesn't excite me in the first couple of seconds, I'll flip. The power and the impact of story. And I was just thinking, you know, like thinking aloud here, how much more powerful could storytelling become when you integrate gamification into it?
So gamification is already integrated into storytelling, right? Like some of the most powerful formats of storytelling is like there's this format where you have to vote what should be the next action a character would take. Right? There are a lot of 2 to 5 minute episodes which are live right now, and I was watching one of these shows, and then after that will ask, do you think the character should do this or do you think the character should do this? Right? Now that's a form of gamification itself. Right? So what we have to kind of once again look out for, right? In terms of a story, right? Say for example, we are talking about, say, you know, a brand that has recently launched in the footwear space. Right now, they have like the Nikes and the Reeboks of the world to kind of take on. So, what would their story be? Right?
Okay.
So they say, hey, you know, our story is that you know these are cool, casual sneakers you can kind of wear anywhere because sneakers is the thing, right? Now, how would you spin a story around it? Right? How would you gamify it? Right? So one way of gamification is by talking about the different things you can do and then rewarding for people who are doing those activities. Right? For example, you can go to a college campus and say, let's see who can dunk the maximum time, number of times in a 30-second interval. Right? And now, the reality for gamification is always that gamification comes with a very defined purpose in mind, what you want to achieve. I'll give you a very simple example, right? One gamification that everybody goes crazy about, and we don't even think about it as gamification, is upgrade.
True.
Right? Like think about it, even the India Railway does upgrade, right? Right. So one of the things that becomes really important in gamification is like how many of your potential customers or users or employees or channel partners want to engage. What is the right kind of engagement rates? Like, I'll give you an example.
Is there a right kind of engagement rate?
There is a right kind of engagement rate. Like, from a frequent flyer perspective, right, the engagement rates of signing up for a frequent flyer program is between 30 to 60%.
All right, Sachin. So let's get into some fun mode. We start off with rapid fire questions. Gamification or traditional engagement methods?
Gamification.
Innovate or optimize?
Innovate.
Early bird or night owl?
Early bird.
Solo brainstorms or team ideation sessions?
Team ideation.
Data driven insights or gut feeling?
Data driven insights.
All right. The second part of rapid fire, fun and interactive. What's a game you would recommend everyone should play at least once?
Sudoku.
Anything more you want to share about it?
It's about understanding the art of possibilities and then eliminating one by one. It just trains your mind to be disciplined. At the same point of time, it keeps revealing itself, right? The next closest can be a minesweeper, for example. But if you want to really kind of, feel calm and try to play a game and not, have a rush of adrenaline in your body, Sudoku is something I always, unless you're really great at solving Rubik's Cubes, that's the other alternate. Because Rubik's Cube is also about going about it like an algorithm.
All right. Nobody ever asks me in all my meetings, but I would just say my favorite game is one Catan and the other is Dungeons and Dragons. If you could instantly master one skill, what would it be?
Recording a reel for myself.
Oh, we're all struggling with that. Describe your job in 3 words.
Get people together, make them believe. Okay, 3 words now.
Yeah.
So, first is team, the second is mission, and the third is fun.
Actually, I like the first answer. Get people together. 3.
Which is team. Get people together.
Okay. If you had to start a non-tech business, what would it be?
I'll be building a large real estate infrastructure project.
Is that something which has been there hidden within you for a long time?
No, not exactly. I just feel like that my real objective in life is to build big things.
Okay.
And that's really I always dream about, right? You can dream with your eyes wide open. I really dream about building large companies, going after large vision and mission, and similarly, like physically, build large spaces.
Yeah, amen to that. Biggest pet peeve in the industry?
We are trying to do too much rather than developing deep, immersive experiences. I think all of us feel that, hey, we have to do this, that. The concept of fewer things done better is evaporating. And I believe some of the best work when it comes to marketing comes out when a fewer things are done better, because the simplicity. Means Apple is an absolute case in point of that. Right? They don't run after what all the gimmicky features that are coming. They wait. They see that which are the features our users and customers are actually going to use. How can we make it so simple that anybody and everybody can use it?
True.
And how can we make sure that when they use it, they have that trust that it is 100% safe and secure? That is a fewer things done better. And I believe that approach would always trump an approach where we are trying to throw all the gimmicks and all the stuff bundled together and push it.
Truly. Let's, yeah. Okay, we move to the third part of the rapid fire, and we call this thought-provoking. So,
a thought-provoking rapid fire.
Yes.
It's like an oxymoron. Let's go ahead.
Thank you, sir. What's the one thing you wish everyone understood about gamification?
That you are doing it for an objective. the user wants to get net value out of it. And as long as anybody who's into gamification understands that bit, would be a very, very happy person.
Which industry trend are you most excited about right now?
I think the possibility of a potential future war 50 years later between CRISPR kits and humanoid robots powered by AI intelligence. I believe like human race will have competition from these two alternate species. So let's see where things stand up.
What's a lesson we can all draw from gaming that directly applies to our lives and business?
I will actually use game and not a gaming. Right? A year ago, India was a hot favorite in its own country to win the 50 over Cricket World Cup. Lost the finals. But that same team came back and started practicing from the next day onwards. So that is a life lesson for gaming, right? When every day we live, we undertake some risks. Some of them pay off, some of them don't. The next morning we should get up, think about it as the next day. It's a blank slate, and go out and take a few more risks. That is a life lesson from gamification or from game, right? That hey, you know what? We are all like ये रंगमंच है और हम सब इसमें कठपुतली हैं. So some of the days the stakes would be good for us, some of them don't. But then the next show, everything gets erased and we kind of start afresh. So life
the show goes on.
The show goes on, right? Means gamification is about enjoying life, and it is about continuously trying to do what we want to do from our heart.
What's a misconception people have about gamification?
It is a way to get them to spend their money. A lot of times people don't want to get into gamification because they don't trust at the end of the day the reward would be equivalent to what is being promised at the time of hooking them on or advertising.
Okay.
And I won't say they're not bad actors who do that. They talk about, hey, you'll get $1 million, and then when you go into it, you figure out like that $1 million is not a remote possibility at all. So I believe that in gamification itself, like in so many other professions, right, it has come out that what you can talk about as a reward and what you cannot. Right? If we self-regulate better, it will just kind of change how people perceive or trust gamification.
So let me put it this way. You are an entrepreneur. Yep. You are in the gamification space. Two things. One is during the course of this journey, what has been the most surprising part, which has caught you off guard while building this business? And what has been the challenges you faced while trying to make gamification effective in marketing?
So the most surprising part is how a lot many companies are ill prepared to get the boost that gamification can offer. Means gamification, depending on the use case you apply to, can give you between a 5 to 30% boost on your business. Right? And the biggest deterrent has been that hey, to do gamification, it is operationally intensive, and we do not have the kind of resources to do that regularly. So it's like I want to do it, but I don't have the resources. And like we spoke about optimization, right? That is where I believe the real or true optimization needs to come into the picture. Because if we optimize and we optimize well, right, I'm sure we can innovate to reduce the amount of overhead it needs for literally everybody. If you're big, if you're small, to gamify your user, customer, employee, channel partner engagement. And that is like, if I have to kind of flip it over, what if there was a Canva for contests and gamification? Right? You can go, you can create something, you do not need an expert to do it. You can launch it, you can A/B test, and the one that is working, you can kind of just take off.
True.
And that is where, I felt that here is a space where you can create a canvas for contest and gamification where anybody, any brand can like get live for as low as 5 to 10 minutes.
Okay. Sachin, what's that one emerging trend in gamification world which you think will redefine the way businesses engage with their consumers?
I believe it is what is called experiential rewards.
Okay.
Personalized experiential rewards.
Can you elucidate a little bit more about it?
So, for example, you and I, right? Once, let me use the old example. We go to the same brand to buy our spectacles, right? They're prescription glasses at the end of the day, right? But if you are buying, that brand knows that the way to get Santosh to buy once every 6 months instead of once every year is like I throw a very cool offer where Santosh feels, okay, my frame is free, I only have to pay for the lenses. Whereas for me, this figure out the best way to get me to buy is if I buy one, I'll get one more free. Right? And then can throw with that a gamification option that, hey, you know, how much do you know about the lenses that come in your spectacles? Whereas to me it is like, you know, why styles in spectacles they change every 6 months. There's a different style in summer and there's a different style in fall, right? And then why you need to be contemporary with it, right? So how do you kind of create the entire gamification aspect, turn it into a game, which turns into engagement, is the real trick over here. Now, the reward that you and I get, it might cost the company similar or lower, but at the end of the day, it is a personalized reward that you and I are getting.
Okay. Final couple of questions, Sachin. I would say, what drives you? Not just for this part of your business, but in general, what drives you where you wake up in the morning and you look excited and you feel excited that today is a new day and I'm going to create something new. What is that driver for you?
I believe that all of us have limited time in this world, right? So what's really important is to deliver value as per your potential and as per the opportunity that exists. And honestly, like a lot of times when I wake up, I feel that I am maybe not doing things as per my potential or I am not utilizing the opportunity well enough. And therefore, you know, here are the things I need to kind of accomplish today and get done with today.
Yeah, this is quite personal for me because the past few days I have been just looking at my notes and I look around me and I feel like I wish I could have done more. I think I've not done enough. When these thoughts come, how do you navigate through and get to work?
So, see, these thoughts will always come, right? Sometimes, depending on the kind of personality we are, either external validation or internal validation factors start to mess. Or sometimes we overwork ourselves.
Okay.
Or we overcommit about ourselves to ourselves. Right? The first thing to kind of tell ourselves, and this is what I regularly tell myself, is that you know what you want to do. But will it give the results that you want? You will not know immediately. So you have to learn to give it your best shot, right? And then, you know, move on to the next thing the next morning. I think this is a huge difference from my corporate working days to the entrepreneurial days. I think in the corporate working days, I was maybe way too conditioned to receive feedback on everything.
True.
And also to get rewarded for everything. Every 6 monthly, there's a performance cycle, there's a reward cycle, stuff like that, right? I think from a real entrepreneurship, self-starter, right?
Mhm.
The thing is, the rewards will come, they'll accumulate over a period of times. They come unexpectedly a lot of times as well,
Huh.
right? But what's really important is the pace of reward cannot control the pace of your effort and also the pace of your ambition,
Hmm. Hmm.
right? If you have a mission, you
Hmm.
have a vision about what you want to do and what
Hmm.
you want to create, you need to make progress every day,
Hmm.
right? There would be, God has its own gamification.
Hmm.
Sometimes it will give you a slingshot and you'll go further ahead,
Hmm.
and sometimes you will just, it's a slippery slope and you will go back a little bit, but the next day you wake up, right? If it's a slingshot, you go further ahead from where you were,
Hmm.
right? If it's a slippery slope, you start climbing the slope again.
Hmm.
That is important. And if you keep doing that, the persistence in that process
Hmm.
is what starts to bring satisfaction and also rewards over a period of time.
Wonderful. Final question, Sachin. Your advice for aspiring entrepreneurs, and that's not just in terms of, um, you know, the business you're in, but in general, especially coming from you it would mean a lot because there are some people who probably start their career as entrepreneurs, first-time entrepreneurs, or taking over a business, but you've been on the other side working and then transition to being an entrepreneur. So, what is that one piece of advice you would like to share who are just starting out?
Actually, this is for all entrepreneurs,
Yeah.
right? You become an entrepreneur by your own call, by your own calling, which means you
True.
have to enjoy it.
Absolutely.
If you're not enjoying it, you need to think about it. If entrepreneurship is the right thing for you, number one. Number two, if you are chasing the right kind of business opportunity. So for all entrepreneurs, right, we are all brothers and sisters, right, all together. The most important thing is we are here because we chose to be here. It's a choice. And if it's a choice, which means it should give us happiness every single day. If it is not giving us happiness, we have to step back
And ask ourselves that question.
Ask ourselves this question, or talk to people we trust so that we are absolutely sure what we are into. Because if you are in the game long enough, you will succeed. But
Absolutely.
You just have to be in the game. Like the question that you asked, right? How do you every day think about, how do I every day think about, what is the energy, what do I want to kind of, it comes because you are enjoying it.
Absolutely.
If you're not enjoying it,
I could so relate to this because, I remember I had shared an episode with one of my very dear friend. He's like a mentor. And his one-line response was, I've seen 3 episodes. And he said, I think you found your calling. And I asked him, well, I've run a company before. And I've worked at so many places. Why do you call this my calling? So his response was brilliant. He said, I know you for quite a bit. What you excel in is listening and to a story and then interpreting that story for the rest of us. And that has always been your calling. And so you're doing that. And I can relate to what you said because when you wake up in the morning, I also have my self-doubts every day. What am I doing? And this is such a unique business as far as I'm concerned, podcasting. And every time I have that doubt which comes back, I always go back to that one point where I said, why did I choose to do this? And I think that motivates me to go back. Sachin, an absolute pleasure to have you on the show.
Likewise.
Thank you so much. I think we should do a longer version soon.
Absolutely. Looking forward to it.
Thank you for listening to this episode of the Between Us podcast. The producer is Santosh Kumar and the associate producer is Samyak Kamble. The Between Us podcast uploads episodes weekly and we'll see you next time.